Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
You can just look around Las Vegas and see it. Once again, we're in an amazing growth curve. And part of the leading edge of that growth are these two county commissioners, Michael Naft and Segerblom. Is it my imagination, or is there like construction everywhere, building everywhere?
And every road, too.
And every road. I mean, the freeway's bad enough, but
yeah, it's just
amazing. Not going to blame you guys for the freeway, right? Long needed, too.
No, absolutely. Honestly, the town's on fire, and as you know, we always have been very cyclical. But I think, at least it looks like to me, for at least 10 years, we're going to be pretty much on the path up.
Sure. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think when everybody gets frustrated about lane closures, everybody gets frustrated about cones, but people like having nice, fresh roads to drive on. They like having the newest, greatest, and the best entertainment, the newest and the best events that are fueling our economy. So I think that's all good as far as I'm concerned, so long as it's done in a responsible way, in a way that benefits, one, people who actually live here, and two, people who get to be part of this workforce.
Commissioner Naft, you brought it up, so I'll follow through. Events. We have what? Maybe our biggest event ever coming this year?
Yeah. Well, probably our two biggest events
okay.
Coming in the next couple of months. You've got Formula One, which is so critically important because it not only is something new for us, something we haven't had before, but the international market of a Formula One race is second to none. People are going to be coming to Las Vegas 10 years from now because they saw a Formula One race on the Las Vegas Strip.
And the kind of people it brings. I mean, yeah. The hotel rooms are like, the prices are, right? I mean, it's bringing a lot of, what do they call them, whales into Las Vegas? Yeah.
Which is what we like. We like to eat whales, right?
Weren't you? Look, you must have been here, because we were both here at a time where we had a Formula One race at Caesar's Palace. When was
Back
that?
in the 80s, right?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, and but they had a separate course behind Caesar's, and it was nice, but it wasn't like this. But this is going to really put us on the map.
So what are we doing exactly? We're repaving the strip so it complies with racing standards? Yeah,
it's one lane on the strip, and for this, I guess it's a 2-mile course, but you have to tear it up a little bit and then put down this special asphalt. So they're doing it in pieces. It's not destroying the town or shutting us down, but it's I forget how many millions, but it's an expensive proposition.
Yeah, you're basically creating a racetrack on the Las Vegas Strip. So the quality of the asphalt, like the commissioner said, is higher. It tracks the tires better and the friction that's created.
Only in Las Vegas can you you know, I've always said this about this town. I've been here almost 50 years. Is that in other cities, I grew up in Philadelphia. So if they would talk about a project in Philadelphia, they'd be talking about it again 30 years later. In Las Vegas, when we talk about a project, there's a good chance it's going to happen. And I wanted to ask you, I mean, you both sit on a county commission, have to make these decisions. These novel projects come on your desk probably every day. Some of them probably incredible ideas, some of them kind of flaky maybe. But you have to discern, each project. What is it about Las Vegas? What is it about maybe it's our county commission that has the foresight to be able to choose the right products and projects to keep this town renewing all the time?
I think it's important that we have a community that wants to get to a yes, right? I think a lot of places that are institutional, that are generational, it's hard to see a new vision every 10 years. But here in Las Vegas, and particularly in Clark County, you have people who are dedicated but want to get to the yes. So if there's a new idea that comes in the morning, you get enough crazy people together to work on it and implement it by the nighttime. So anything is possible here. I think you have to believe that to be part of the fabric of Las Vegas, and I know we certainly do.
And also, just to follow up on that, our government is really lean and mean, and so if you want to create something like Formula One, they come in and say, oh, we're going to build this building, a $200 million building, we say, okay, they're going to have it built in 6 months. It's a huge facility. So we allow these things to happen, whereas any other city, they'd still be talking about environmental impact statements 10 years from now.
And interestingly enough, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, you both have backgrounds. You, Commissioner Naft, with the federal government, working for a congressperson, and you, Commissioner Segerblom, in the state legislature. So you worked at the state, you worked at the federal government. Different world working in the county, and it seems like it's working a lot better.
We definitely play with live ammo. You make a decision and things start moving very quickly.
Yeah. So the thing, so the Formula One, I mean, that's here for a long time.
At least 10 years, it looks like.
And how does that compare? I mean, how do they rate this when they rate it to other Formula One races around the world?
Well, one thing that's interesting is every other race is franchised, so the Formula One people don't actually own it. They are going to own the one in Las Vegas. So you can see they already realize that this is way beyond anything they've ever done. I mean, I was watching yesterday, they did one in Azerbaijan. I mean, you drive down, there's 10 people looking over the fence. I mean, here we're going to have all these hotel rooms filled. We're going to have bleachers everywhere. We're going to right down the middle of the strip, 200 miles an hour. I mean, it is so perfect for what we do because the people can be able to come here, see it, participate, and, of course, go to all the parties before and afterwards.
Now, I assume they're going to be charging for the seats on the strip, but you know, is it possible to go see the race for free if, you know, walk over to Las Vegas Boulevard? I mean, I was in Paris one year when the Tour de France, the bicycle race, ended right there in the Champs-Élysées in Paris, and you could just walk over and watch the bikes finish. We don't know how it's going.
I don't think you won't have a prime spot for sure.
You won't have a prime. Maybe see part of the race though. Also, you know, up in that area, talking about the Strip, you have the Madison Square Garden, the MSG Dome.
That's another project in Commissioner Segerblom's district.
Yeah,
he's busy.
And honestly, that is really going to be revolutionary. I mean, I see that as the future of entertainment, and it's going to blow people away. I mean, each seat will be able to have its own sound, its own shake like this. It'll have smell, wind, and you can be sitting here and listening in German. You sit here and listen to English over here in Spanish. I mean, the technology is phenomenal, and it's like 15,000, 17,000 people looking down on a stage. Anyway, it's just going to be very phenomenal.
Well, exciting. We have some rock groups that are coming to open it, right?
U2's coming to open it up in September. They're going to use the Formula One to do a lot of stuff. They're making special movies to show in there. It'll be like a IMAX or something. So there's lots of things going on, but it really is going to be revolutionary.
Wow. Just unbelievable. We just keep reinventing ourselves. I mean, it works. I know something that you're working on, Commissioner Naft, the train.
Yes.
The high-speed train. Now, the one exception I was going to talk about, my introduction about how we talk about something in Vegas and it actually happens.
Yes.
Now, we've been talking about that
just
for
because
as
it
long
takes
as I've
30
been
years
here.
in this case. Yeah, we've been talking about a high-speed rail to California for my entire life. And there are many reasons why I think this is finally the time. One, you finally have support from California. For all those years, California really saw this as a gambler's train to Las Vegas and didn't really see much vision behind it. But you now have an administration in California whose top priority is climate control and cleaning up the environment and reducing the carbon impact. This is an entirely carbon neutral train. It's an electric train. You're going to take people literally out of their cars, off of the 15, and put them in high-speed rail. You've got the full connection beyond to Rancho Cucamonga and beyond from there, so it's not just a train to the middle of the desert anymore. And you have an operator who is doing this right now in a very effective and profitable way in Florida, and it's working there, and I have no doubt it'll work here. And then you also look at where we are as a community. We're much more mature than we were when this conversation started 30 years ago. We have not just 40 million plus visitors, but 2.4 million people who live here in Clark County who might want to take high-speed rail to California and beyond.
So at what stage are we really at? I mean, getting the money always seems to be the problem, I would think.
Well, you have a private funder in Wes Edens who's putting together the capital, but they have applied for and are aggressively going after a federal grant for about $3.7 billion. That'll close the gap and really make this a reality. And as soon as that comes in, hopefully in the next couple months, they'll be off to the races and they'll be ready to move quickly. All of the entitlements are done. They have all of the permissions organizations and working with literally dozens of local jurisdictions, mostly in California, tribal communities with us. We've done we've really set the course out. So they're ready to go as soon as they get the grant and then go out to the market for the rest of the capital. And I also believe that they are the best suited for that grant. I don't think there are really any other competitors who have the opportunity to achieve what the administration wants them to achieve, which is a reduction in emissions and really creating something innovative and new in the West.
So if everything would go to plan, when would somebody be able to utilize a train?
I think it's conceivable in the next 3 years that we'll be riding high-speed rail to California. And
is there like a price point that we kind of know what it will cost?
I think they're cognizant that they'll have to compete with
Spirit?
with both air travel and car travel. But I think it's also a very different mode of transportation, right? Particularly as for the average person getting through airport security has become more difficult. The fees associated with taking a bag are ridiculous. Gas prices are unpredictable, but typically getting higher and higher. And so I think that it just makes a whole lot of sense. I think they'll be competitive. I don't think everyone who flies is going to want to take the train, nor is everyone who gets in the car going to want to take the train. But I think there's enough market share to go around, and I'm pretty bullish on it.
I heard we're going to have showgirls, not conductors. I'm kidding. The development on the Strip. It's happening on both sides. It's happening on the north end of the Strip and the south end of the Strip. When we talk about,
two great guests for this.
Yeah, I could sit over there and be an Oreo. But that the north end of the Strip, considered what, the Sahara kind of area, where Fontainebleau and there's some other property that's going on there.
World, yeah.
And then the south end, out by the South Point, there's a lot going on out there as well.
I think you're right. Both we're kind of capping the Strip. Commissioner Segerblom represents that north side, and I represent the south end, all the way south. And you look at say Las Vegas Boulevard from Warm Springs you can go all the way out to St. Rose. But let's say to Blue Diamond. You have more contiguous land for development in the H1 zone, which is our highest zoning, which means you've got Las Vegas Boulevard frontage. There are really incredible opportunities. You've got Oakview Group looking to invest at Blue Diamond. You've got the acreage that we talked about for the Brightline train that is all secured and has more than just a train station, but a whole lot of development that they're looking to put on that site. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and your side of the Strip, which is kind of like the older part of town, that hey, if you're going to keep reinventing yourself, you have to keep redeveloping the older parts.
Well, when I was elected, it was really the boneyard. There was the old Stardust that was a metal frame. There's the Fontainebleau, which was a metal frame with windows blown out. The Resort World now is off and running. Fantastic hotel. Fontainebleau, no one believed that would ever come back.
Right.
It is going to be open in November. So it's incredible. And now the property, they bought property across from, right next to where the old anyway, right next to the convention center on the Strip there. They're going to come in and build some stuff. So it's
the old Wet and Wild area.
Yeah. And then we have AllNet, which I haven't given up on yet. There could be an NBA stadium. He's talking about an NBA stadium in his area. I mean, it's just phenomenal what we're doing, and we haven't even talked about the Asia, which is Michael's problem.
Michael's problem. What about it?
Look, I think in the last couple of weeks we've seen the A's go into contract on some land. I think for both of us, certainly for me, it's about realizing the fact that Las Vegas has come a long way. This whole conversation we're having is about how much Las Vegas has to offer. We have Allegiant Stadium, which is the most profitable concessions, the highest ticket prices, the best facility, arguably in the world, certainly in the country. We have a lot to offer. When you build something here, you're going to get a higher ticket price. You're going to get more people to come. And I just think as a community, we have to stop selling ourselves short, realize the product that we have, and go into a negotiation with that top of mind.
In the sports world, they talk about cities that have the big four: hockey, basketball, baseball, and football. And it does to some degree, change the market. Is there a limit of how much we can really build here? Aces, and we have all these minor league teams coming in as well.
I think what's really interesting about the sports economy in Southern Nevada is the ratio of visitors to locals, and that's really important as we look to either any potential public investment, but no doubt as we look to attracting sports here is that you have to look at how many visitors we're going to get, because that's our economy here, right? That's what it's all about. How can we do this in a way that ticks that volume up? So if you're getting, you look at the Raiders as an example. Now I'm sure Mark Davis would like to see more home fans, but when you see visitors in Allegiant Stadium, that translates to dollars for us. That translates to one extra night that they might be staying in the hotel spending. And I think that's a really important part of the equation as we look at what sports may or may not work here. It's really important.
Well, look, you've done your part of the job. You filled the stadium. If he wants more locals, he's have a better team. Right? Isn't that the way that works? It works like with the Knights, okay.
That's right. But the other thing is we don't want to give away the store. So, I mean, for example, the live entertainment tax doesn't apply to any of these local teams. I mean, when you fill that place with 60,000 people and all that tax isn't going to help us, and we do subsidize a lot of that stuff. So we need to really make sure that whatever we do, we don't give away the store. I mean, we're in the driver's seat, I think, as Michael said. So let's negotiate this thing from that perspective. And anytime we can bring in a new team or a new building, that's great. But we don't want to give it away.
Right. But these same people do bring in. They stay in hotel rooms, pay a hotel tax. There's a gaming tax. There's food, sales tax. There's all kinds of other ways that we benefit, right?
Exactly. But again, if you look at this particular district that they're talking about for the A's, all that tax is going to go to pay for the stadium. So we're not going to get any of that to support things. So anyway, if we can get there, but we just don't want to give away the store.
Right. So if that's a wash, and tourist comes in and spends all this other money, then it's a win-win.
Yeah. But the other thing about the county is so strange is we don't get any of the room tax. A lot of those taxes, live entertainment taxes, we don't get. That all goes to the state. So we have to pay for a lot of services that we don't get reimbursed for. So we need to be more forthcoming in what we get out of things too.
So you got to keep your eye on the ball, is what they say.
It's tough because there's so many balls running around, and they're all different sizes.
Yeah, I mean, you guys must get these proposals, day in and day out, different.
I'm sure Michael does, but I do too. It's like every crazy idea in the world comes here, but we've been fortunate to pick a lot of the good ones.
Yeah. The homeless problem, which faces every city in America. I mean, it seems to me like nobody has come up with any kind of solution for homelessness. Although I have to tell you, I've been very impressed. I saw that you were recently at a charity, trying to remember the name of it, where they feed homelessness. They get some food from donations and from 3 Square, and they have a warehouse and. I forget the name.
I do. Yes, that sounds right. I do a lot of that. I actually have the Colorado River Food Pantry, I think is what you're talking about.
But we actually do a really good job with the private charitable organizations in town. Seems to be really on top of homelessness. Keep
in mind, almost all of those are funded, at least in part, by Clark County. We are the safety net at the end of the day, and while a lot of the good work is being done by our partners in nonprofits, they are our partners, and we have a huge stake in the work that they're doing.
Fair enough. But but the one thing, and I know we're building some housing, from time to time, but it's never going to be enough, right? Yeah.
But honestly, one of the problems is because housing and rental apartments have gone up, you're pushing people down. So they have to, the same income, you have to go to a lower level, and then when you go to the lower level, then those people get pushed out. So right now, there's just not a place for a lot of these people that are out there, and we need to find some place where they can live some type of a decent life. They can't live in the washes. They can't live in these little tent cities around the valley. That's unacceptable in a modern society.
You wanted to talk about Commercial Center? That's your district.
Yes.
Now, that's another thing that I remember from 50 years ago. Now, I have to admit that I was impressed when we did something with the Huntridge Theater. Because something else we've been talking about for years, let's do something with the Huntridge. You finally made it happen.
Yeah. No, it is phenomenal. The fun part for having a district that's an older area is that even though Michael's area is going crazy, a lot of people are recognizing to come back downtown. And so Commercial Center, we're getting lots of attention. It's in the redevelopment area, so we have some resources we can put in there. And I'm working with Commissioner Miller, but you're going to be surprised at how that really jumps off the table pretty quick here, because it's essentially located and it's got a lot of history, and we have so much history in Las Vegas that's it's in warehouses, but if we can all bring it to one place and show it off, it's going to be very fun.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking here about some really wonderful news and opportunities for Las Vegas, basically. When you look forward, what are some of the issues that are really tough to wrestle with?
Well, water is the big one from my perspective. I mean, any way you look at it, we only have so much water. And so to me, we need to start thinking about how we're going to use that and where we're going to go. And in all my years, I've never seen anybody say, well, let's try to plan it out. It kind of just goes on its own. And honestly, we can't do that forever. So we need to kind of look at the bigger picture and how we want to do it. Do we want to go all the way to California? Do we want to go all the way to Mesquite? Do we want to try to limit it, push it back into the valley? We want to go up as opposed to out? But there's lots of things we can debate.
I think that intersects well with the question or the comment you made about some of the ideas that we get. We get all kinds of ideas, and now we're starting to pay closer attention to the water consumption because we have to and because it's the right thing to do. So now, weighing these different opportunities against one another and making sure that we're looking at the water consumption. So is a bottling center really the best idea, something that consumes more water than almost any other use, or is an outdoor surf park such a great idea, and making sure that we're balancing the consumptive use of the water with the economic benefit of the project.
And I've noticed, I see it, that our golf courses all have to cut back on there's been some changes that are going into effect this year, I think, right?
Yeah, so I'll let you take that. You're on the...
No, I'm not on the water authority, but no, we're looking at all those kind of uses. But at the end of the day, it's the cost of water. I mean, if you raise the cost up, people are going to use less. So we just need to focus on that and make sure that when water is used, it's used for good benefit, and also look at the number of jobs that water produces. So we don't want, as you said, you don't want to create lakes out there with hiring 2 lifeguards when we could take that same amount of water and put it for 1,000 people.
Yeah, well, that's another balancing challenge, I guess. Beside water, population keeps going up, building. I know it's related, but is there?
Well, schools are the other big issue, and we don't deal directly with them. But I have created, or starting to create, a mini school district within my area to try to let the county get more involved. So if we can provide resources, identify issues, because we've learned that schools can't do it by themselves. Now they have to be the babysitter, the everything. And so if we can take our social services and combine them with each school, I think we can have a better product. So that's what I'm trying to focus on in my old area, particularly East Las Vegas, which has really been suffering. Half the teachers there are not even teachers; they're full-time substitutes, just because we can't get enough teachers.
Historically, it seems that the county commission was always kind of at odds with the city council and sometimes with the federal government and the state legislature. I mean, you have to go up to the state and try to, fight for money and resources. How helpful is it with your background with the federal government, your background with the state legislature? How helpful is that for you to work on the county commission and kind of work together?
I don't think it stops all fighting, but it certainly gives us a perspective, I think, which is really valuable. I think that kind of experience matters. Being able to have walked that path, I think, matters, and understanding that everybody has a job to do, and everybody, at the end of the day, at least most of us, are really looking out for the best interests of the people we represent, whether you're at the state or federal level.
Yeah, but historically, you're right. As far as each one is a silo, so the city did its thing and the county did its thing, and they didn't talk. But the truth is, we do the same things. We overlap, and same with the state. We're talking about actually building a state building right next to our building down there in downtown, and that would enable us to be even closer. But and now having the sheriff be the governor, and having before the Sisolak being the governor, there's much more commonality and unity between the state and local governments than there ever has been.
Right. And with Metro, I assume, as well, right?
Absolutely. And that's another thing with Metro. I mean, they've operated in their silo, and that's Michael can speak to that. But the truth is, they need to be part of this, and especially when you get into homeless issues and things like that. I would need to be able to call somebody at Metro and say, help me with this area, or help me with that area.
Yeah, it's a really unique model we have here with an elective sheriff that reports to two separate bodies, but we are working closer than ever before, I believe.
Look, look, the only way it's ever going to work is that we work together and try to resolve these problems, unlike parts of our government. So I want to thank you so much, Commissioner Michael Naft, representing the south end of Las Vegas, and Commissioner Segerblom, representing old school Las Vegas,
exactly,
where I grew up.
Exactly. So you and I have something in common, but Michael's the future, obviously.
Yeah. How many years did you have an office downtown?
I've
70s? You were back in the 70s, right?
Yeah, I'll go back to then, but well, actually, we worked together in 78, I think it was.
Yeah, maybe even longer. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
My name is George Tice, and I'm a real client of Ed Bernstein. So I was in a really bad car accident, head-on collision. I had to have surgery, and I needed a good attorney. So I immediately thought of Ed. Ed is tenacious, and he knows what he's doing, so he was my best choice. He cares about his clients, and he cares about the results of the case.
The most important decision you can make when hiring a lawyer is choosing the right lawyer for your case. We are that firm.